I woke up on my birthday to the sound of someone snoring. Except it wasn't me. And it wasn't Darla, my wife. She was already downstairs. I could hear her making coffee, singing along to that stupid indie playlist she plays when she's in a good mood. But there was someone else in my bed. Someone male. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the unfamiliar back of a shirtless man lying on my side of the bed, under my blanket, next to the pillow that still smelled like her. I remember thinking, maybe I died. Maybe this is hell. Because none of it made sense. The blinds were still half open. The hallway light was on. The door was open like this wasn't even a secret. The guy stirred, scratched his head, then rolled over. He didn't wake up. I did what any emotionally repressed 40-year-old high school teacher with joint pain and a poor sense of confrontation would do. I slowly backed out of the room and closed the door without making a sound. Then I walked down to the kitchen like a ghost. She was there, humming, wearing the same robe I bought her last Christmas. Hair tied up. Calm. Casual. "Happy birthday, sleepyhead," she said, holding out a mug like we were in a Folgers commercial. I stared at her. Just stared. And she smiled. I said, "There's a man in our bed." She didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just sipped her coffee and said, "I know." That's when I realized I was losing my mind. Or she was. Or both of us were. And this was some sick game. "You know?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice from cracking. "Yeah. His name's Kellen. He's just staying a few days. You said you wanted to try something new this year." Let me be very clear. I never said that. I never said anything about having a stranger sleep in our bed. I never agreed to some weird birthday surprise. And I definitely didn't know this guy's name was Kellen. I sat down. My legs didn't want to support me anymore. "Darla," I said, "what's going on?" She set the mug in front of me, kissed the top of my head, and said, "I love you. I just needed some space to realign things. Don't overthink it, okay?" I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't even speak. That day, my birthday, turned into a waking nightmare of casual insanity. Kellen stayed, walked around in my slippers, used my razor, watched my Netflix queue. He even high-fived me after dinner. Darla acted like it was all normal, like we were hosting some Airbnb guest who happened to use our bed instead of the guest room. That night, when I finally broke down and asked her, point blank, "Are you sleeping with him?" She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just looked me dead in the eye and said, "He understands me, Calvin." I wanted to scream, cry, smash something, but I didn't. Because I'm Calvin, and Calvin swallows everything. I slept on the couch that night, alone, listening to muffled laughter coming from the bedroom. And then, sometime around 2:30 in the morning, I heard the soft creak of the stairs. It was her. She came down slowly, barefoot, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes were red, voice shaking. She sat next to me, grabbed my hand, and whispered, "Please don't leave me." And I, the absolute fool, nodded. But something in me broke that night. I just didn't know yet how deep the break would go. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a second. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together how we got here. How my wife of nearly a decade had invited a stranger into our home, let him sleep in our bed, and somehow made me feel like the intruder. She sat beside me until she thought I fell asleep, fingers loosely wrapped around mine. Eventually, she stood, tiptoed back upstairs, and left me there with nothing but the sound of the refrigerator buzzing and my thoughts turning sour. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. Thick-cut, maple-glazed bacon, the kind she used to make for me on special mornings. I dragged myself into the kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes, unsure what version of hell I was about to walk into. And there she was, cheerfully plating breakfast. For him. Kellen sat at our table, shirtless again, scrolling through his phone, laughing at something stupid. Darla was pouring him orange juice, brushing crumbs off his lap like he was a king and she was his handmaid. There were pancakes, bacon, toast, eggs. It looked like a damn hotel buffet. There was no plate for me. She didn't even glance at me. "Morning," I croaked, because apparently, I still hadn't learned how to stop being polite to people who demolished my dignity. Kellen looked up and smirked. "Sleep all right down there, buddy?" Like we were frat bros sharing a dorm. Darla shot him a quick look, as if to say, "Not yet," then turned to me and finally acknowledged my presence. "Cal, we didn't know if you were hungry. Didn't know if I was hungry. Not a sorry. Not a let's talk. Not even a whisper of remorse. I live here," I said quietly, not sure if it was a reminder for them or for myself. This is my house. Kellen stood up, stretched dramatically, and said, cool place. Open concept. Very chill vibe. Then he winked at her. Actually winked. Like I wasn't even standing there. Like this wasn't my life. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys, walked out the door, and sat in my car for nearly 2 hours. Didn't drive anywhere. Just sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it was the last solid thing in my life. When I finally came back inside, they were gone. Just a note on the fridge. In her handwriting. Went out for a bit. Don't wait up. You should take a long bath. Might help you decompress. Yellow heart. The audacity of that heart emoji nearly made me throw up. I spent the rest of the day in a haze. Cleaned out the fridge. Wiped down counters. Did laundry I didn't need to do. Anything to avoid walking into that bedroom and seeing reminders. Around 9 p.m., I heard the front door open. 2 sets of footsteps. Then laughter. Then silence. I didn't move. About 30 minutes later, she came downstairs alone. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. She just stood near the staircase, arms folded, and said, "You're being weird." I looked up slowly. "I'm being weird." She shrugged. "I'm trying to evolve. This isn't just about you anymore. I'm sorry if that's hard. I'm your husband, Darla. You're also stuck." There it was. The thing she never said out loud before. The thing she'd been holding in for months, maybe years. "I'm stuck," I whispered, already knowing what was next. "You've been the same since 2018, Cal. Same job. Same car. Same routine. You cling to things that make you feel safe, but it's like you're not really living." "And you are?" "By sleeping with some half-naked dude in our bed and pretending it's spiritual?" She flinched at that. For the first time, some flicker of guilt cracked through her cold exterior. "I didn't plan for this to happen," she said softly. "But it did. And now I have to honor that." "Honor it." She used the word honor to describe betrayal. Then she sat beside me again. Her voice dropped low. "But I still love you. That hasn't changed. I just need more." And there it was again, the begging, the contradiction, the twisted emotional tightrope she was making me walk. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said, placing a hand on my thigh. "Not yet. I'm asking you to trust that this is going somewhere bigger." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because for the first time, I realized something far worse than being cheated on. She wasn't sorry. She genuinely believed this was okay, that she was growing, and I was simply collateral damage in her path to self-discovery. That night, I didn't sleep on the couch. I slept in my car. Engine off. Door locked. And when I came back the next morning, the front door was unlocked. The bedroom was empty. But on the bathroom mirror, written in lipstick, were 3 words. "Please choose me." When I stepped back into the house that morning, the silence was the first thing that hit me. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, it feels staged. Like walking into a crime scene after the tape's been removed. Nothing was broken. Nothing was visibly wrong. But everything felt off. Again, the writing on the mirror was still there. "Please choose me." Written in her signature lipstick, the same one she used to kiss my neck with on anniversaries. I stood there for a long time just staring at it, my breath fogging the glass, heart pounding like I had just run a marathon. She wasn't home. Neither was he. For a brief moment, a stupid, fleeting moment, I thought maybe they were gone for good. That maybe she'd had some moment of clarity and realized how far she'd spiraled. That maybe the lipstick message meant she was finally going to try to fix things. But when I opened our bedroom door, that fantasy collapsed like everything else. Her side of the bed was unmade. Mine was untouched. On the floor was a t-shirt. It wasn't mine. It was his. Some overpriced black thing with a tiny brand logo on the sleeve. The kind of shirt you only buy if you're fit enough to make it look expensive. I left it there. Couldn't touch it. Wouldn't. Instead, I went back downstairs and sat in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee pot she hadn't bothered to turn off. An hour passed. Then 2. I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. My phone buzzed twice. One was a work email. The other was a message from her. "Be home by 2. Can we talk?" Not "I'm sorry." Not "I'll explain." Just "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. But I stayed. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed to understand. Because when someone breaks you like this, you start needing answers like oxygen. Even if they burn. She walked in right at 2:03 p.m. No apology for being late. No explanation for where she'd been. She just came in, tossed her bag on the floor, and looked at me like I was the one who owed her a conversation. And the worst part? She was wearing his t-shirt. I could see it under her denim jacket, sleeves too tight on her arms, the neckline stretched. She looked down when she noticed me staring at it, but didn't offer a word. Just sat down across from me, legs crossed, hands folded like this was a therapy session. Cal, she began, and I already hated where this was going. She only used my name like that when she was about to say something cruel in a calm voice. I've been thinking a lot, and I don't want to lie to you. I care about you deeply. I really, really do. You're my best friend. You've always been there, and part of me wishes that was enough. It was like being punched in the chest with every word. But I've changed, she continued. You know it. I know it. This thing with Kellen, it started as something stupid. It did. I was lonely. You were distant. We stopped connecting. I felt invisible. I nearly laughed. Invisible? I made her breakfast every Sunday. I rubbed her back when she was stressed. I asked about her boutique drama, even when I didn't care. I sent good morning texts from the next room just to make her smile. She leaned in. He made me feel like a woman again, like I was wanted. And I didn't. I asked, voice shaking. You made me feel safe, she said. And then bored. There it was. The gut punch I didn't see coming but probably should have. I stood up. Couldn't stay sitting. My whole body felt too small to contain the rage building inside me. She reached out, grabbed my wrist gently. Wait, she said. Please. I'm not saying I want to leave you. I'm saying I need both of you. For now. My mouth went dry. You're asking me to what? Be your husband while you play girlfriend with him? I'm asking you to trust me, she said, as if those words meant anything anymore. This is temporary. I just need time to figure out who I am. You figured it out in his bed, I muttered. She flinched, then stood up too. For a second, I saw something behind her eyes, something cracked. Scared. Vulnerable. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. You're the part of me that still feels grounded. He's not forever, Cal. You might be. Might be. That phrase hung in the air like poison. I should have left right then. Packed a bag. Driven to my brother's place. Filed for separation. But instead, I said the dumbest thing I've probably ever said in my life. So where does that leave me tonight? She looked up at me, eyes wet. With me, she said. Just tonight. Please. Just stay? And like an idiot, I did. I stayed. Even as I watched her take off his shirt and climb into bed beside me, smelling like someone else's cologne. Even as she curled into me and whispered, "Thank you for still being mine." I closed my eyes. And I didn't cry. Not that night. Because something colder had taken its place. And that was the first time I started planning what came next. I started keeping a notepad beside the bed. Not for therapy, not for journaling, just for my own sanity. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with fragments of thoughts, questions, things I should have said but didn't, and I'd write them down before they got buried under more silence. One night, I wrote, "When did I stop being your favorite place to hide?" I never showed her that one. A week had passed since the night she wore his shirt and begged me to stay. Kellen was gone, at least temporarily. Supposedly, out of town visiting his cousin in Flagstaff, though I didn't ask for proof. I didn't want to know. Knowing would have made it real again, and I was still too raw to handle it. She was trying, or at least pretending to. She started cooking again, badly. She overcooked pasta and burned garlic toast, and forgot how to use the rice cooker. But she said she wanted to relearn us. I let her, because even bad meals felt like something. A breadcrumb trail back to who we used to be. But that was the problem, wasn't it? We used to be. The version of her I married was long gone, and I was trying to resuscitate a ghost. She was here, yes, in body, but every now and then, I'd catch her staring out the window too long, or flinching when I touched her back the way I used to, or checking her phone and then flipping it over as fast as lightning. Which brings me to the night that changed everything again. It was Friday. We had eaten some poorly thrown-together tacos and sat down on the couch to watch something she picked. A reality show I couldn't stand, but I played along. She curled up next to me, head on my chest, phone in her hand, scrolling absently like she wasn't even watching. And then, her phone buzzed. She locked it. Immediately. Not just off, locked. Before I could even glance, it was face down on the couch cushion, like it was radioactive. I didn't say anything. I just swallowed and waited. A few minutes later, she stood up, said she was tired, and went upstairs. Alone. I stayed down there, heart racing, stomach turning, staring at the dim television screen reflecting the face of a man who'd become a shadow in his own home. But then, as I turned off the lights and walked toward the stairs, I saw it. Her laptop, still open on the kitchen table. She never leaves it open. Something in me snapped. I know what you're thinking, that I should have respected her privacy. That snooping makes me just as bad. But you have to understand, at this point, I wasn't searching for dirt. I was searching for proof that I wasn't insane, that the gaslighting wasn't just in my head. The screen was on an open Gmail tab. No password prompt. And there it was. A draft email, not sent, but typed out. Subject line. When he's asleep, I still feel nothing. My hands started shaking. I clicked. The email body was short, unfinished, but enough. It's not that I don't love him. It's that I feel like I'm watching someone love me through a foggy window. I can see the effort. I can't feel it. Kellen makes me hate myself less. Kel makes me feel like a fraud. I want him. But I don't. Not anymore. No recipient. No signature. Just her raw words, sitting there in a draft like they were too cruel to send but too true to delete. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My face was hot. My hands numb. And then, just as I went to close the laptop, I heard her voice from the top of the stairs. Did you read it? She was standing there, arms crossed. No makeup. Just oversized pajamas and the look of someone who didn't care if I saw the blade anymore. I didn't mean to. I stammered. I was just. Don't lie. She interrupted, stepping down a few stairs. You meant to. I stood frozen. She walked toward me, slow, deliberate. I was going to delete it, she said. I couldn't send it. I didn't even mean to write it. But I had to get it out. You ever write something just to get it out of your head? I nodded slowly. She sat at the table across from me, pulled the laptop toward her, and hit delete. Just like that. Gone. Why didn't you just leave me? I finally asked. If that's how you feel, why stay? Why play house? Why beg me not to go if I'm just foggy glass to you? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, because part of me still believes we could come back from this. And that part is too scared to die completely. That answer broke something deeper than I knew I had. Because it meant the only reason she was still here was fear. Not love. Not even guilt. Just fear of becoming someone even worse. That night, I didn't sleep in the bed. Or on the couch. Or in the car. I drove. Nowhere in particular. I passed empty gas stations and closed diners and highways with no signs. I drove until the sky turned gray and the fog settled low across the roads. When I finally turned back, it was nearly sunrise. And I realized I hadn't thought about forgiveness once. Not once. I was starting to think about something else. Something colder. When I got home from that drive, the sky was still smeared with the kind of bruised morning color you only see in movies. Too pale, too pink, like the world itself was embarrassed. I parked the car, turned the engine off, and just sat there. My fingers gripped the steering wheel like it might float away if I let go. I wasn't crying. That had stopped somewhere between mile 30 and 40. Now I just felt hollow. Not the sharp pain anymore. Not the heat. Just the weight. Like I had a body full of bricks and a brain full of static. The house was quiet when I walked in. Not a single light on. No scent of coffee. No music. Not even the familiar hum of the fridge I'd memorized over the years. She was asleep. Probably. Or pretending. I didn't go up to the bedroom. I went into the guest room. The one we never used except when her mother visited once a year and made passive-aggressive comments about our weird lighting choices. It was dusty. The sheets still smelled like storage. And in the corner of the closet, behind an old vacuum and a stack of half-used gift bags, I found something I wasn't looking for. A shoebox. Not just any shoebox. One of those fancy ones from some overpriced boutique with a magnetic lid and gold lettering. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe I already knew. Inside were dozens of folded letters. Each one dated. Some recent. Some older. One even predated our 3rd anniversary. All addressed to no one. Or maybe to everyone. And not a single one was meant for me. I unfolded the top one. It wasn't handwritten. She had typed it. Printed it on cream-colored paper like it was part of a collection. The date was from 5 weeks ago, the same week Kellen first appeared in our house. He smells like pine and danger. He doesn't knock. He just walks in, like the space already belonged to him before we met. I hate how my body responds. I hate how alive I feel. Kel asked if I wanted to watch a documentary tonight. I lied and said I was tired. I was wide awake in someone else's imagination. I felt like vomiting. But I kept reading. Another one, This one from 2 months ago. Kel bought a new pillow. Said he hoped it would help with my neck pain. It's sweet. He's always sweet. But sometimes sweetness feels like sandpaper. It grates against the part of me that wants to scream and throw plates and feel something sharp. I wish I could tell him that. But I won't. I don't want to watch his heart break in slow motion. Another, older. I think I married him because he made me feel like I was safe from myself. But maybe that was never his job. There were more. Some rants. Some poems. Some pure stream of consciousness writing that felt too raw to be anything other than truth. And nowhere, not once, did she mention love. She mentioned obligation, guilt, nostalgia, even comfort, but not love. My hands trembled. I flipped through them, hoping for just one that said something good, something redeemable, something I could hold up and say, see, she wanted me once. But even the oldest ones sounded like someone trying to convince themselves of a lie they didn't quite believe. I took the whole box to the kitchen, set it on the counter like evidence in a trial. Then I waited. She came down a few hours later, robe tied loose, hair in a bun, her expression unreadable. She saw the box, paused, and didn't even try to explain. Instead, she sat down across from me and said, "You weren't supposed to find that." I didn't answer. Couldn't. She leaned forward, fingers curling slightly, and said something that will never leave me. I had to write it down somewhere, Cal. I had to put it somewhere where it would have come out in ways you couldn't recover from. That is coming out in ways I can't recover from, I said, barely recognizing my own voice. These are confessions. You've been bleeding on a paper while pretending I was enough. She looked at me like I was a child who didn't understand grown-up pain. I tried to love you the way you wanted, she said, slowly, like it was my fault. But I kept choosing the version of myself that didn't exist anymore. That's not your fault. But it's not mine either. You stayed, I snapped. You stayed and dragged me through this circus like it was some spiritual journey when it was just selfishness in a prettier dress. Silence. A long one. Then, what are you going to do? It wasn't defiant. It wasn't scared. It was curious. Like she genuinely didn't know whether I'd scream or cry or disappear or forgive her again. I stood, picked up the box, and said, I'm going to read every word, every single page, because when I leave, I want to know exactly who I'm leaving behind. She didn't follow me. She didn't say sorry. She just sat there, staring at the mug in front of her like it had answers she couldn't find in me. That night, I started reading from the beginning, letter by letter, line by line, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. The letters weren't just about me. Some of them, some of the older ones, were about someone else. Someone named Theo, and I had never heard that name before. I stayed up all night again. It had become routine at that point. Insomnia not from caffeine or stress, but from this growing awareness that I was living with a stranger who still smiled like my wife. The box of letters was in my lap. The guest room smelled like old linen and dust, and I felt like a character in someone else's diary, the kind that gets written about but never really understood. But then I found the first mention of him. Theo. At first, it was subtle. Just a single line buried in a 4-paragraph monologue about memory and longing. She wrote, Theo used to say the body remembers what the heart tries to forget. I paused, reread it twice. That sentence didn't feel like a quote. It felt like a memory being unearthed with reverence. Who was Theo? An old friend? A past boyfriend? A brother? There was no context. I flipped through more letters, this time not chronologically, but hunting, looking for his name like a breadcrumb trail. Another letter, dated 3 years ago. I think about Theo more than I should. Not in a romantic way. Not always. Sometimes it's just the sound of his laugh, or the way he disappeared like he never existed. I wonder if he ever thinks about me when it rains. And then another. But this one was dated last month. Kellen doesn't remind me of Theo. That's the problem. Kellen is present. Loud. Real. Theo was smoke and strings and secrets. And maybe that's why I still can't bury him. Maybe that's why I keep dreaming of the boat. The boat. We never owned a boat. We've never even been on a boat together. My skin prickled. The kind of cold dread that starts at the back of your neck and slowly creeps down your spine like spilled ice water. I didn't know why, but I knew, instinctively, that Theo wasn't just a memory. He was an omission. A person whose absence had somehow shaped our entire marriage, without me ever knowing he existed. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. At 6:12 a.m., I walked into the kitchen, She was already there, pouring almond milk into her cereal like nothing was collapsing. She looked at me, saw the box still in my hands, and before I could speak, she said it. You found Theo. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even cautious. It was resignation. I didn't sit down. I didn't want to get comfortable around this version of her. The version that had secrets stored in shoeboxes and memories she never planned to share. Who is he? She exhaled, slowly, and placed her spoon down. Before you, she said softly. He was before you, but not long before. That doesn't answer anything. She nodded, sipped her coffee, eyes scanning mine like she was deciding how much truth I could handle. We were engaged. Briefly. Silence. Then laughter. Mine. Bitter and involuntary. You were engaged? She flinched, but kept talking. It wasn't public. Only my sister knew. It fell apart fast. He was intense. Creative. He used to write music. He had this idea we'd live on a boat someday. Sail around the world. He even showed me the route once. Mapped it out in red marker across a globe he found at a flea market. I was in love with the dream, not the man. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 9 years married. And this was the first I'd ever heard of this person who apparently shaped her view of romance so deeply that she was still writing about him while cheating on me with someone else. So what happened? She looked out the window. He left. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. One day he was here. The next, he was across the country. I got a voicemail 2 weeks later. Said he couldn't be the man I needed. That I deserved someone who wouldn't burn the house down just to feel warm. Her voice cracked on that last sentence. He disappeared. I don't know if he's alive. But every few years, I dream about him. It's always the same. I'm on the boat. He's steering. And then the sky turns black. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to feel. Anger? Yes. Jealousy? Probably. But more than that, I felt like I had walked into a theater midway through a play I thought I knew, only to find out the entire plot had changed in Act 1. And worst of all, there was still more. I went back to the letters later that afternoon. I was supposed to be grading essays, but instead I sat in the sunroom, box on my lap, the late summer light casting long shadows across the carpet. One of the envelopes was different. Black. Sealed. No date. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single, handwritten note. If I disappear again, it won't be because I don't love you. It'll be because I don't trust what I become when I stay. T. No, Darla. No context. Just that. Theo had written her back. He wasn't just a memory. He was still somewhere. Writing to her. Possibly watching. And the worst part? I think she never expected me to find this. I think she wanted me to discover Kellen, to rage, to break, to spiral. But Theo? Theo was hers. And I was never meant to know he existed. I couldn't just sit on it. The letter from Theo, or to Theo, whatever it was, that short, terrifying message hidden in the sealed envelope. It wasn't something I could just pretend didn't exist. That note had a pulse. And now, so did my suspicion. This wasn't just a before you guy. He wasn't some harmless ghost in her emotional closet. He was active, recent, and suddenly, everything felt orchestrated. Kellen, the letters, the emotional chaos. All of it felt like a curtain, and behind it was something I hadn't been allowed to see. I needed answers. Real ones. And there was only one person left in her life who had known her before me. Marcy, her older sister. The one who only came around on holidays, drank white wine too early in the day, and made condescending comments with a smile so practiced it could sell poison. I never liked Marcy. She never liked me. But she adored Darla, in that twisted, territorial way only sisters can. Like she viewed me less as a husband and more as an intruder. I called her. I didn't warn Darla. I didn't even tell myself what I was hoping to get out of it. I just dialed the number, waited through 4 rings, and braced myself for the voice I hadn't heard since last Christmas. Cal? She answered, instantly suspicious. What happened? Is Darla okay? I didn't ease in. I didn't soften it. I said, who is Theo? Silence. I could hear her inhale, sharp through the speaker. Then, she told you about him? She didn't have a choice. I found the letters. Another pause. Then a dry laugh. Not amused, not mocking, just exhausted. God. I told her to burn those years ago. So it's real, I said. He's real. Not just some poetic fantasy. Not just one of her emotional escape rooms. Oh, he's real, she said. Too real. But you already knew that, didn't you? I didn't answer. She went on. Darla was never the same after Theo. She built your marriage on top of his crater. That doesn't mean she didn't love you, but you were always aftershock. There was something so cruel in the truth of that. I almost ended the call. But then I remembered the black envelope, the note, and I pushed. Why didn't she ever tell me? I asked. Because it wasn't a breakup, Marcy said. It was a disappearance. I froze. What do you mean? I mean, one day he was here, and then he wasn't. He ghosted her. She was devastated. But she moved on. She met you. She told herself it was over. Except he came back. My stomach turned. When? About a year into your marriage, she said. I only know because I caught her at my place crying over an email. She swore it was just closure. Said he reached out and then vanished again. I believed her at the time. But lately, I'm not so sure. I asked her the only question I cared about. Was she in contact with him recently? Marcy didn't answer immediately. And when she did, her voice dropped to a whisper, like she didn't want to hear herself say it. I don't know. But when I saw her last Thanksgiving, she looked like someone who was juggling something radioactive. Not just guilt. Fear. Like he was back in her head, or her inbox. I thanked her. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me still believed this was fixable, and I thought knowing would make the pain manageable. It didn't. After the call, I sat in the garage with the door open, breathing in the cold air like it could filter out the poison in my lungs. That's when I remembered something. Darla used to keep an old tablet, a clunky, half-broken thing she never used anymore, in the bottom drawer of her vanity. I only remembered because I once suggested tossing it, and she snapped, saying she used it for old notes and stuff. I found it that night, still charged. Miraculously, no fingerprint lock, just a simple 4-digit PIN. I guessed it on the third try, her father's birthday. And there it was. A folder buried under layers of default app clutter, tucked deep in the documents directory. Named innocuously, Boat Maps. Inside, PDFs, scanned drawings, old JPGs, photos of hands pointing at coastlines. Scribbled notes in the margins of napkins. And then, voice recordings. One titled simply, Dockside, September MP3. I played it. It was quiet at first. Wind, water lapping. Then a voice. A man's voice. Rough, mid-30s maybe, with a slight rasp. Not theatrical, just real. And he said, "This is the spot. This is where we start. If you come back here, and you're serious this time, don't bring him. This part's just for us." The file ended. My vision blurred. Not from tears. From adrenaline. This wasn't some ex-boyfriend pining in letters. This was a living person, leaving coordinates. This wasn't emotional cheating. This was premeditated escape. I took the tablet upstairs and placed it on the bed. She walked in minutes later, saw it, and froze. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, "You told me he was gone." She stared at the screen, then at me, then back. And all she said was, "He never really leaves." She didn't chase me when I walked out the room that night. She didn't cry, didn't plead, didn't offer any final explanation. Maybe she knew the truth had already turned to stone between us. Maybe she didn't think it mattered anymore. But I did. I needed the ending to matter. Not for her. Not even for Theo. For me. I spent the next morning alone, in the park near the school where I teach. I sat on a bench and watched kids play while my mind replayed every moment of the past 9 years. Our wedding. Our first home. Her laugh when she used to actually laugh with me. The nights I carried her upstairs after she fell asleep on the couch. The morning she told me she wanted to try for a baby, even though we never did. And for the first time since all this began, I didn't feel broken. I just felt still. I went home around noon. She was sitting in the kitchen. Her eyes were red, her hair messy, wearing one of my old hoodies. She looked like she hadn't slept either. There was no box of letters anymore. I had moved it. Not to the trash. Not to the fire pit. I buried it. There's this grove behind our neighborhood. Little patch of woods nobody goes to, not even the kids. I took the box there, dug a hole with my bare hands, and laid the letters in like I was burying someone's bones. Because in a way I was. Not hers. Mine. The version of me who let it all happen. Who begged to be chosen. Who waited for love to return like a dog left outside in the rain. I came back home, washed my hands, made coffee. Then I sat across from her and said exactly what I needed to say. "Darla, I forgive you." Her eyes widened. "But I'm leaving." And I did. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I packed a single duffel bag, took the car I paid for, and left her the house. She didn't fight me on it. I think deep down, she knew it was the only ending that made sense. For a while, I stayed at my brother's place, got back into running, started therapy, took extra hours at school, and got close with a few co-workers I used to ignore. I started existing again, not as half of something broken, but as a whole thing slowly being rebuilt. 6 months later, I moved into a small apartment downtown. It's nothing special. The walls are thin, the water pressure sucks, and the heater makes a clicking noise in the winter. But it's mine. Every part of it is mine. Darla sent me one letter in that time. Just one. She said thank you. Thank you for loving her when she didn't know how to love herself. Thank you for staying as long as I did. And thank you for leaving when it was finally time. I didn't write back, but I did read it more than once. A year to the day after my last birthday, the one where it all shattered, I woke up alone in my own bed. No snoring, no hidden men, no cold stares across the kitchen, just silence, warm sunlight, and the smell of my own badly brewed coffee. And I smiled. Not because I won, not because I got revenge, but because I made it through. And for the first time in a long time, I liked the man I had become.